7 minutes past the hour of 10 o'clock.
John Kass and Jake Hartford in for Bruce and Dan on 89 WLS. You want to go golfing, Jake?
You know, I got to quit listening to the news, read the news. Couple things. One story that we just heard Dave Stewart do in the news, and this other story I just came across. There has been this campaign. It started with Marco Rubio, the golfers. There is a We Are Golf Coalition. Apparently, they were after Rubio and other Republicans to quit talking about the president and the amount of times he's played golf.
Right, because I think Mitch McConnell mentioned golf, and one of these morons said, well, if he mentioned the president golfing, that means he's really talking about Tiger Woods, and it was all about trying to draw a connection between the president and Tiger Woods issue because they're black. Some nonsense, convoluted horse poop, okay? And these are the people that are supporting, that are against golf jokes.
You know, I haven't even heard about all that stuff, but I know
it was in Kentucky.
But I know every so often they'll say, well, the president's, he's golfed so many times, or he's had so many fundraisers compared to other presidents at this time.
He golfs a lot.
I understand that, and that's his choice. And the people will have their choice in November who they want to reelect him or not. But that's irregardless.
190 golf dates.
But I'm reading. I wonder how many balls do you think he loses?
I don't think anything has to be said after that.
There were, now that you remind me, there was the story, but one of them, he had the Secret Service carrying his bags.
And then what? The guy that,
and he was but he was driving the golf cart.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a golf cart, you don't need somebody carrying your bags because you had the bag on the golf cart.
Okay, the world is going to hell. The deficit is what, in the trillions, and he's golfing.
Well, maybe he needs to get away.
We'll get back to the golf issue.
But anyway, the golf story is that this organization, We Are Golf, one of the president's close friends and a lobbyist, Tony Podesta, is behind this whole deal. It's political.
The whole deal is to stop people
talking about the golf.
Talking about the golf.
And doing jokes.
So if golf is bad, when are the pirates going to come out, the pirate lobbyists, and tell us not to make jokes about the president sitting with pirates while Libya burns up? Okay? Because those pirates have a lobbyist too.
Yesterday, John and I think it was just John said this, made comment that there was a picture of the president and a pirate in the Oval Office.
Yeah, on Pirate Day.
In fact, I think I was out of the studio when you said this.
Here it comes. This is where I get left alone, okay? This is where I'm left. The boat leaves.
It was carried around the country about this picture, right?
It was on Drudge.
And other places. Mm-hmm. It was hit the news because there's a president with a pirate. Well, it turns out, and you made this comment about, he's got time to be with the pirate, but he doesn't have time to meet with Netanyahu.
Right.
At least that's what I'm told you said when I wasn't in the studio.
Yeah, of course, Jake. That's good that you got my back, man. Keep going.
I'm for you, John. I'm with you.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, but it turns out that picture was from 2009.
Correct. But it also turns out, Jake, that when the president couldn't figure out Libya as a terrorist issue and was hopping on the Letterman campaign or Letterman show and all that, his campaign, the Obama campaign, decided to retweet the photograph. So they thought
from 2009.
Cool. Right. So in other words, they put it out at that time.
Yeah.
So they thought it was cool.
And the people in the press picked it up figuring it was like from yesterday or whatever, and it wasn't. It was from...
The point is not that it was taken in 2009. The point is that with all this going on, the president decided to put out his pirate picture.
Well, that's all part of the campaign, though. The campaign thinks it's cute because it was Pirate Day Wednesday.
That's really cute.
And for those of you who didn't hear the whole pirate joke, because I ran out of time when I told it the other day on International Pirates Day, it's on my Facebook page.
And I think people should go there and read that joke.
But anyway, so that's that. So then the third thing is listening to Dave Stewart with the news. that comment yesterday about the president said you can't change from the inside.
You can't change Washington
From the inside.
From the inside.
And I'm like, okay. When I heard that, I'm like, well, you had the House, you had the Senate the first 2 years. I didn't hear anything about this comprehensive immigration reform, which he told Univision yesterday. That's where he made the comment. Well, they asked him some really hard questions yesterday. This is the first time in a long time I think he's ever been hit with some hard questions on his show. It wasn't a Letterman interview yesterday. Yeah, they hit him. Right. They hit him with some good questions, and he answered some questions, and some he ducked. So, but when you talk about the inside with Obamacare, that was the ultimate insider. He cut a deal with the unions, cut a deal with Big Pharma. The lobbyists are the ones who wrote the damn bill.
Wait, is David Axelrod, who was the mouthpiece for Rich Daley for all these years, he's an outsider? And they plucked Obama from the backbench of the legislature and made him a president? He's an outsider? Give me a break.
I was outside the studio just this past 30 seconds. Did you say something?
You don't want to acknowledge that?
I'm just joking with you.
All right.
But anyway, so that was the ultimate insider. That whole Obamacare was the ultimate insider. And by the way, yesterday there was a story about how this tax, if you don't buy insurance, is going to hit 6 million people. They originally said it was going to be around 4 million. Now they're saying it's going to be 6. They're describing how much the tax is going to be after it's in effect for a couple years. It's like they say it averaged around 1,200. I don't know. But that's what the report was from the congressional office yesterday. But they also said that when Obamacare is fully implemented, there will be 26 million people without insurance. And I heard that, I'm like, what? Wasn't the whole idea of going through that whole deal is make sure everybody had insurance?
Are those the people that are going to get the waivers?
There are people that will have waivers. There's people who aren't going to be able to afford it. I mean, and I looked at this.
If you were one of the insiders,
if you don't have, right, if you don't get a waiver for your company or whatever, and you have to buy insurance. Say your company doesn't provide the insurance, you have to go buy it. They're estimating that a family of 4 is going to cost $15,000. What do you do if you don't have $15,000?
Pay a tax.
And you still have no insurance.
Right. Great program.
And
but let's go on David Letterman and make jokes.
But the whole thing about being an insider? No, never mind. Never mind.
I'll tell you when we come back.
591-8900 is the phone number. John and Jake in for Bruce and Dan. It's 10:15. Time for traffic.
89 WF.
I've learned some lessons over the last 4 years. And the most important lesson I've learned is that you can't change Washington from the inside. You can only change it from the outside.
So David Axelrod says, we're back 10:16. So David Axelrod says that what he meant by that was that it has to be the people that make the change, have to stand up and get involved. And that's what happened with the Affordable Care Act. There were people that were upset that it wasn't a full reform. There wasn't tort reform in there, stuff to keep the costs down. There a lot of stuff. And people were upset.
And they knew that it was a hidden tax, and it was government getting larger and grabbing their freedom.
And congressmen weren't listening. When they'd have these town meetings, they weren't listening, and the people got upset, and they were shouted down and thrown out. And that's where the Tea Party movement grew.
Correct.
But when it first started, it wasn't a Republican thing. It was people.
Still not.
There were Democrats in there. There were Republicans in there. There were independents in there. There were people without parties in there that were upset about the way the government was this big freight train coming down the track with some people in the front and the other people are going to be in the back.
And what did Obama's guys, meaning Durbin, Axelrod, and all these others do? They cast the Tea Party with the help of media as a bunch of psycho racists, which was a lie. All they are people who stood up against government power. And they were dismissed, and now Axelrod thinks that's okay for people to get involved?
The right people.
You mean the left people?
The right people.
The left people.
Vince and Lake in the Hills. Good morning, Vince. You're on 89 WLS.
Good morning. I have a couple of things that's been aggravating me for a while about Obama and just about some things I hope Rami brings up. The one thing about Obama, if you take how much golf he's played, he's been on TV more than any president. If you go back to even Dwight Eisenhower, more times than any president ever in history. So when you look at his presidency, it's more of a marketing machine versus him being president. If you take all the time he's been on TV in the White House, it's almost a full year of his presidency. And the other thing that bothers me that was never talked about, you just talked about before, is that he had control in Congress, when he got in. But no one ever talks about when the Democrats had control of Congress and the Senate, and during Bush's last 2 years, and they didn't want to vote against the war, but they increased spending after they had control of everything with Obama in there. And no one ever talks about that, which drives me completely crazy, and I don't understand why it's not talked about more.
The other thing that drives me crazy is I saw one of his people was on TV the other day, and they're talking about the jobs. And if you notice, when they talk about the jobs he created, they mention the last 29 or 30 months. And then they'll mention the 4 million jobs that Bush lost in his last year. But for some reason, there's 14 months in between when Bush left office and 29 months ago that kind of gets lost, where we lost millions of jobs.
Exactly.
Thank you, Vince.
And it's a running total that they never. It's a running total each month that the Bureau of Labor Statistics come out with. They never talk about how it's measured. Just like when we don't talk about how unemployment's measured, when unemployment should really be at 16 to 20%, because half the people they try to call, they never get a hold of.
I did a column.
Thanks, Vince.
Someone's out there for a month, they don't ever do anything.
I did a column last week about the real unemployment number, which is about 15% or higher, not 8%, because of the way we measure it. And in the media, for some reason, they've taken the low number, the one that makes Obama look better.
Marty in the car. Good morning, sir.
Hi, Jake and John. How are you guys?
Marty.
I was driving around the city, and I saw the Knights of Columbus collecting money for intellectual disabilities, and I wondered if the Democrats were out fundraising today. Is that what's going on here?
That's not a nice thing to say, Marty. That's a very bad thing. You should be. But Marty, bad thing to say. Bad. People out collecting for a good cause, and that's
kids need help.
And there's people. That's why people fundraise. Working hard
for those kids, yeah.
Not counting on the government. Raise money from people.
Unless you know somebody, if you're on the inside, then you get a grant, a federal grant.
I guess
that's how it works.
10:20. Back after this on 89 WS.
89 WS.